Hey folks, Dennis here with Las Vegas Worm Farm and the Living Soul community, and time for our worm topic of the week. This week we're talking about protecting your investment. All right, let's start out with, have you ever walked into Mother Nature, natural landscapes, maybe a forested system? If you did you ever notice something? Usually as kids, we notice this right away, and we start skipping and kicking these things up, and it just starts flying. Anybody guess what that is? If you know what it is, drop it down in the comments. The soul is never left bare. It's never left uncovered. There's usually leaves, sticks, limbs, all covering the surface. That is Mother Nature covering herself. Many gunners treat this uh, or growers are treating, mulch as this type of uh, decorative thing, right? It makes the yard look nice, and we like to, use certain ones that accent certain plants or certain features that we have. But in nature, it's actually part of a ecosystem, and it's actually part of your soil. It is. Think about it. When we go back to that forested system or nature, nobody's cleaning that stuff up. It's just how Mother Nature handles her situation. Now, this kind of goes into specifically what we talk about in the Living Soul community. If you're not part of that, come check it out, the Living Soul community, and that's on school.com. We talk about air, water, food, and microbes. Now, the cool thing is that you have to have all these in order to have soil that actually grows a plant. But if we have the right type of mulch on it, it provides four important things that many growers are missing. One of those things is protection from evaporation. It protects the moisture inside of the soil, right? It keeps it where it's supposed to be so it doesn't go away, which means it's better for us because we can go longer periods between watering. It also shields the soil from the sun, the elements, the sun, erosion, the wind. It helps stabilize temperatures. Mulch is a roof. If the weather is, you know, not nice outside of your house, inside of your house it's nice. That is the mulch. The mulch is the house that keeps everything protected. And the last thing that it does is supports everything inside of that house, right? It makes sure that all of those microorganisms inside your soil are happy and healthy. These are the four things that mulch can provide. And if you don't have it, you don't have any of that. And that's probably why you're struggling with your garden. The next thing I hear from a lot of people is that if I use mulch, I'm going to get all these pests, I'm going to get all these diseases and have all these problems. I ask you to go back to that forested system or nature that you've walked in. Are there pests? Sure. Are there diseases? Sure. Are they affecting anything around it? No, because it's used properly, right? Now, how does Mother Nature use mulch properly? All right. For example, if Mother Nature drops her leaves from the tree, right? If a tree loses its leaves, where do those leaves fall? Do they fall right next to the trunk, piled up on the trunk? No. They spread out all over the place. The wind takes some away, but some of them stay put, but it covers everything. It's not all blown into one location, right? So when we're using mulch, we have to use it appropriately. Like putting it right next to the stem of a tree is probably not the best thing, or right next to our house, right? That's just not how Mother Nature works. So if you like this type of stuff and you find it interesting, do me a favor, give it a like, share so that other people can find this content and utilize this information as well. Now, let's get back to it. So let's break down mulch a little further and how we use it to support a healthy soil ecosystem. Basically, how do we use it in our gardens? Well, what is mulch? Mulch is anything that covers the soil, right? It can be organic or inorganic. I like to use wood chips. I like to use decomposed wood chips, right? Because that doesn't rob nutrients from my soil. And I don't have to move it out of the way if I'm going to be adding more compost or adding plants or it gets mixed into the soil. I don't have an issue with that, right? Because they're already decomposed. They're already they've already have the nutrients in them. So they're not robbing the soil. That's me personally. I like to use 2 to 4 inches, somewhere in between there, right? Keep it nice and fluffy. That way it protects everything in all of my plants. Another thing that I like to do is I like to use sweet potato vines. I'm not going to lie, in the summertime, those guys just come back for me if I don't harvest all of them. And then they just cover the soil. It's a nice living mulch that I don't have to do anything with. I also have a patch in the corner that I have strawberries in, and those strawberries just keep the soil covered all year round. Like these are simple things that don't take a lot of work for me. And guess what? They come back every year and they just keep doing what they're doing. So I don't have to do all of that work, right? This makes gardening so much easier as a gardener because I don't have to keep doing these things. Mother Nature just takes care of it for me because I'm mimicking what she naturally does, right? And the crazy thing about using some of these mulches is like the plants, right? The plants will actually keep things a lot cooler because also there's an air gap between the leaves, excuse me, the leaves and the soil. And that allows the heat to kind of collect there. And then if you have mulch on top of that, it just keeps everything nice and cozy the way it's supposed to in the soil. This makes sure that the moisture is where it's supposed to be. The sun's not getting to it. It's like basically kind of like, I always call it a roof, but it's like an armor. It really is. It's an armor for your soil, right? Like if you have multiple layers, that's even better. Like I said, I use the wood chips, that's one layer, but then if I have plants on top, that's another layer of protection. And then if you're using, multiple levels of plants, right? Let's say you got a sweet potato vine, and you got corn growing, right? Now you have multiple layers of mulch. You have the mulch on the ground, you've got the sweet potatoes covering the bottom of the soil, and then you have corn rising up and shading over everything, right? Multiple layers of mulch provides so much more protection. And Mother Nature does this naturally. So I think the best thing we could do is think about the jungle, right? In the jungle, right? Not all of us live in the jungle. I get that. But think about the jungle. You've got those big, massive trees that are over top, right? Now they're spread apart, right? Like there's gaps between those massive trees, but underneath those trees, there's other trees, right? And bushes. And then we've got vines that go up to those massive trees and go down, right? Like George of the Jungle, I guess George of the Jungle kind of stuff, right? Like there's all these plants underneath all of these other plants. And then when you get in, you go deeper and deeper, you find more plants and you find, plants that are right on the ground. All of this is Mother Nature and science, but biology doing what it has been for thousands of years, protecting the soil underneath. And the forest is one of the fastest places where decomposition occurs, right? It's just turning over so rapidly because of the temperature, the moisture, and then the protection on the soil. It's always protected, always. Now, in nature uses all organic things, right? All natural things. But us as home or backyard gardeners or growers, we have a little bit more of an option when we're looking at what we want to use as a mulch. We can use all the organic stuff like I talked about. There are some pros and cons to that, right? Like fresh wood chips will rob nutrients from your soil. Straw, maybe there's some seeds left over. Now you might have straw or those growing. Leaves, sometimes those leaves can mat. If we're using grass clippings, those sometimes can mat, cause anaerobic conditions, right? So we have to be careful if we're doing this if we're intervening into what Mother Nature does naturally, right? So we don't mess up the ecosystem because trust me, I've messed it up and it gets messed up pretty easy because we think we know best and sometimes we don't. The other thing we have to consider is that if we're using inorganic things, right? If we're using plastic or landscape fabric or something to cover the soil, right? If it's non-porous, then you're not going to get any moisture going in and you're going to get a lot of that heat collecting inside. Whereas if you're using something that's more porous like landscape fabric, maybe some of that heat can escape. Maybe some of that moisture can go down in there, right? So we get that airflow so those microbes and everybody stays happy in that soil. So these are different things that we have to consider with the different types of mulches that are out there. At the end of the day, the mulch is providing the ability for those microbes in the soil to do what they're supposed to, which is cycle nutrients for your plant. If we don't have anything covering the soil, then we run the risk of our plants being nutrient deficient because there's no microbes in the soil for them to be able to do that. And that's because it provides a roof or a coat of armor for our soil. If we don't have that, then we get big temperature fluctuations, right? I saw this. I went to the Nevada Ag Conference and I spoke there, but there was another there was a PhD there. I forget what her name was. I apologize, but she was showing a chart on the different on the temperature swings in the soil, whether you have mulch or not, and it was very drastic. Like no mulch, the temperature swings are like this, right? And I don't know about you, but I want my house to be at a constant temperature because that makes me happy. If my house is doing this and the AC is not working and it's getting hot and getting cold at night and like doing all of this, then I'm not a happy camper. That's the same thing that happens in the soil. The roots of your plants are not going to be happy. Those microbes are not going to be happy. And then your plants aren't going to be happy. And then you're not going to be happy, right? So you got to put mulch out there to keep everything regulated and normal, right? Nobody wants to live in a house where the AC is not working or the heater is not working. You have these big, massive fluctuations. This is extremely important if you're living in extreme climates. So if it gets extremely cold where you are, right? Or if it gets extremely hot, like where I am, got to put mulch out there. It's extremely important in those extreme environments. It's important for everybody else. There's no sense in investing all of these things, right, into your soil and getting it out there, right? There's no sense in doing it if you're not putting a coat of armor on your soil. We go out there and we put mycorrhizal fungi, we put different types of bacteria, we create compost with all different types of input sources because we know diversity is key, right? We're adding all these different types of organic materials. We're creating all of this and then we're putting it into the soil because we know it's good. And a lot of us, what I see is we stop there. We're like, I have everything. I got the diversity. I've added everything into the soil. My plants should be as happy as they can be. And what ends up happening is everything just dies because we never covered it. You've got to have armor on your soil. If you don't have that armor, you're going to be lacking, right? Nobody wants to go into battle with no armor, right? Like you could have the best sword, the best javelin, the best whatever it is, gun, bullets, but if you don't have armor to protect yourself, you're gonna die sooner, a lot sooner. The soul is the same way. You've given your soul and you've given the plants everything that they need, but you didn't protect anything. No nutrient cycling is going to occur. Your plants are going to struggle, and then you're going to wonder, what happened? I did everything right. Most of the time, we fall short on the mulch, and that is usually where you fall short. Or that is usually one of the biggest problems that I see. There's no mulch. There's nothing covering the soil. And again, mulch is anything that provides armor for the soil. It protects it from the sunlight. It blocks the wind from hitting it. It softens the blow of every raindrop that hits your soil. All of these things cause issues, right? And the mulch is just that armor that just provides all of that protection. It's the roof on your house. It really is. Using all of this is super beneficial, but if it's used in the wrong way, you're going to run into problems. We already talked about using fresh wood chips. We already talked about using straw, right? We already talked about plastics, not allowing air in. Another detriment of using plastic is there's no, the temperature can kind of get really hot, right? So then you're solarizing, you could possibly be solarizing your soil, which increases the temperature is really hot. And then all of a sudden you've killed off all your microbes. So breathability here is key. We talk about this with buying organic materials from the big box stores or buying them from anywhere, right? There's no holes in the bag. Are the microbes really alive? Probably not. So ultimately, the goal of putting mulch in is protecting the investment that you've set into the ground for your plants, right? You paid money for the plants or the seeds. You paid money for the organic material that you added, any of the amendments that you've added. You paid money for all those things. So we got to protect it. We just have to. And the best way to do that is to use mulch. Whatever you want to use is up to you, right? They all have their pros and cons. Just understand their limitations. And I can guarantee you that you will probably have a better growing season. If you've never used mulch before and you use mulch this time, the first thing that you'll notice is that you can water less. The second thing that you'll notice is your plants are probably going to grow better. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all next week.